Going through Apple's Human Interface Guidelines, we can see that touch targets should have a tappable area of 44 by 44. Do they? And what does that mean for our app? And how can we use the frame and intrinsic content size to help us? Well, let's have a quick look. If I create a new app, nothing special. And I'm just going to use the storyboard. And just add a UI button. If I put it in the middle, then all I have to do is set up two constraints. Center horizontally and vertically. And then it's in the middle, and auto layout works out the rest, so there's no errors. And if I use the assistant editor, I can quickly set up an outlet for this, so then I can get some more information about my button. So I'm just going to call it button for now. Okay, so when this loads, I can get some information about the button. So in fact, I can get some on view did layout subviews. So then I make sure all the subloads of subviews have been loaded, and I can print the frame of the button. And I can also print out the content size. And that should be printed out to the console. So I'm expecting to see the button in the middle of the screen here. Nothing will happen if I press the button, it will just be right in the middle. Good. And it has the intrinsic content size, which is a width of 46 and a height of 30. And 30 is less than Apple's stipulated 44. And it's exactly the same as the frame. So what's going on here? Let's see what happens when we add our own view. So I'm going to get rid of everything to do with this button I've added. And if I just add a plain UI view, and I can just put it in the middle of the screen. So center horizontally, center vertically. And auto layout says I don't know what height and width you would like that. So if I set a simple background so I can see it, if I run the project again, I'd like to see that green view right in the middle. And unfortunately, you don't get anything. Position and size are ambiguous. So we're being told, oh, I don't know where to put it because I don't have a width and a height. And of course, using the storyboard, we can create the constraints, width, height, but it seemed inconvenient. When I added the button, I just put it in the middle of the screen. So there's a way of doing this. I can get rid of the width and height constraints. And it's about subclassing the view. So I might call this something like container view. Because it's just an empty view, you might want to put something in. It's a view, so we'll need to know about UIKit. Now I want this to be usable in Interface Builder, so I'm going to use IB Designable. It inherits from UIView, and we're going to have several initializers. So we call super with the same frame, and I'm going to have a shared view to set up the view. That's the wrong initializer, so I'll just copy and paste from my other window. So setup view is just going to set the background color. And we're going to set up a function to prepare for Interface Builder. This means that we can set up the background color for Interface Builder as well. So let's see. Let's go to the storyboard, and I don't want it to have the green background anymore. Just set up default, and we'll say it's going to be our container view. And it can sometimes be tricky that auto layout takes quite a long time to run. Position and size are ambiguous. So to solve this problem, we can use intrinsic content size. So prepare for Interface Builder. That doesn't look correct. Prepare for Interface Builder will invalidate intrinsic content size, and will override the intrinsic content size property and I can return a CG size. So if I return a square, it should be very visible. So we now have our blue view, and it's in the middle of the screen, and I didn't have to set up the width and the height. That's because it's already been set. I've set it in container view as the intrinsic content size. So why might you want to do this? In the case of the button, it's kind of a minimum size. You always have a size which is, I think it was 30. Now, irrespective of what it says in the human interface guidelines, the button always wants to be 30. And yes, it can kind of fight with constraints and auto layout to see which of these wins, and you might need to adjust some other settings to do that. But principally speaking, this is giving us the size of our object. And that's useful because then you don't have to set as many constraints. And I believe this is how it's been performed for the UI button. And unfortunately, they've set a UI button intrinsic content size which perhaps isn't as big as it should be, but it gives programmers the flexibility to make their UI button smaller if they so choose.